Hi everybody, good morning. Well, Wobble episode 18. It's taken a while for me to get round to doing this one. I've just worked it out. 6 weeks since my last Wobble Gob. Lots happened in 6 weeks. Every Wednesday I've been meaning to do a Wobble Gob and come and chat to you guys, but something's just kept getting in the way. So it's going to be quite a big update today. I've got a stupid cough. I'll come to that later. So if I keep coughing and drinking, I do apologise. So I'm up early. It's just after 7 o'clock. And I thought I'd come and have a chat. I've just realised there's one thing I haven't got out that I need to get. So what have we been up to? What have I been up to? Well, since the last time I spoke to you, I've got a big list of things to talk about. So as you know, with Fabricology, which is what was the Halifax Embroiderers Guild that I'm a member of, we're doing an apron this year, and we had the joy at the start of July. We had Anne Kelly for a 2-day workshop. So we were working on our aprons. So because we were doing home and we're to do what home meant to you. So I ended up doing a doormat. You all know about my right foot. Oh dear. I decided now I want to try and find or make myself some pumps that look a little bit like these. So it was all hand stitching. And this one's been done onto the base of my doorstop is an old vintage handkerchief, and then I've got a selection of my fabrics that I've been using. So my fabrics that I've been using for my apron, because we've got this domestic theme, I've tried to use old bits of clothing where I could. My nose has just started running and I've got a tissue. So trying to use as much recycled and upcycled stuff as possible. Sorry, not nice listening to somebody blow their nose. So I've got on here a bit of lace from a tablecloth, some linen buttons. And I ended up doing a tiny little print from one of Anne's prints. I've got a little bird on there as well. So it's all coming together. I wasn't at the August meeting. Our August meeting was lavender. So somewhere I've got to try and get some lavender. A little sprig of lavender or something like that, which no doubt I might actually pop it maybe on a little bit of lace down here or something. I don't know. Oh, the other thing that I did as well, because when I was chatting to Anne, she was talking about different ways of just breaking your apron up. So I did an edge down the side, cheated a little bit and whacked it through my machine, just because then it breaks up that edge, so that bit will fold over the back of the inside. So I didn't do that at the other side because you're not going to see it. So that's my apron. I've done a little bit more on our Jessie Chorley section. So I've done a bit more on the house, and I've started doing my knife and fork. I'd already done my spoon. So I'm really enjoying doing this. It's such a nice project, adding all the different bits and pieces. So we've still got September, October and November to put on. I can't remember what we're doing in those, but I need to catch up a little bit with August and add something on for that. So that's beginning to come together really nicely. I have to put a piece of cardboard in there because my Jennifer Collier bit with my postcard. Keep forgetting that it's not the easiest thing to fold up, and it was getting a little bit damaged, so just having to fold it around. I can't wait to see them all done. They're all going to look amazing, I am sure. Right, so that's that. So that was the start of the month with Anne Kelly, and then the following weekend I went off to Dutton's for Buttons in Ilkley and did a workshop, which was my hair kit. I haven't got a picture of that because it's in my shed. But yeah, so I did the hair with that. And then the rest of July were quite big plans. I've got big intentions because Robert was off to Ghana. So my husband works for Winstanley College over in Wigan, and they were taking some students out to Ghana to work with a charity looking at building bookshelves and libraries in schools and things like that, and he got the chance to go. So he was going for 2 weeks. So because I wasn't there for 2 weeks, I had very, very big plans for those 2 weeks. So I thought, because it's wasn't the last 2 weeks at work, or was it? It was the last 2 weeks at work. So we were sort of winding things up at work. So I'd kept my calendar clear, and I decided to do a workshop with Tansy, and it was an online one called The Little Book of Thumbnails. And I met her in Knit and Stitch last year, and absolutely loved her drawing style and things like that. And I thought, oh, do you know what? She'd got a 2-week online workshop, video each day, and I just thought, right, do you know what? I'm going to do that. So on the Monday, I was being a very good student. I'd cleared everything so I could do each of the workshops. So as you always do when you're doing, or as I do anyway, starting your project to get a new book. And Tansy had talked about how, because she works with thumbnails, she works on dotty paper because it's the easiest way to draw the grids out. So I went and bought myself a sketchbook. So it's my thumbnail book. And this is the work that I did with her. She opens up the subscriptions every so often. It's closed for now, but I know it'll get opened up again if anybody fancies doing the workshop. But it was looking at contrasts and experimentations and darks versus light. And the idea with the thumbnail is they're just little snapshots of what you had to do. So she set us a lesson each day for us to do, and I just started developing it myself. So I did the first one, wasn't happy with it, had another go, was a bit happier, removed colour and played around with that. We had to do some drawings in the garden. So working on the thumbnail, I went round our garden and made some thumbnail little viewfinders and just used that to take some photographs of areas in the garden. We were meant to go on a walk, but this was on the Tuesday when I'd been at work and I didn't have time to go on a walk. So I thought, oh, I'll be a bit sneaky and I shall do some photos in the garden, and then I could come in and work because it started raining in the garden. So these are the black and white drawings that I did because I took a photocopy of them because I quite liked the black and white, but then I wanted to work in colour. So that was then the colour page. So the idea is like with a limited palette. And then I did some sections of these. I took thumbnails of these and then did them black and white. And then the weekend task was, we were meant to not glue the pages together, but I ended up gluing the pages together because the colour had gone through. So we had to make notes on what we'd been doing. We did one that was based on stamps, which, I don't know, I enjoyed doing it. It wasn't quite my thing, but I did enjoy doing it. Probably take something from that at some point. Then we had to go and look at things that you don't normally notice. So again, because I was a bit limited as to where I could go, that was the garden. And then I haven't quite finished this one, but this was looking at backgrounds, middle grounds, closer, foreground, and then I've still got to do the underfoot because it got too dark and I couldn't see what I was doing. Then we had a lovely one which was just mindfulness drawing and doodling and colouring. I really enjoyed that. I think that's so good for your brain. But also when you're doing it, it helps you work out different ideas. And then I started mixing up the tasks, thinking about my own work and looking at possible compositions and ideas based on my whole haul and based on bits within the garden. So they'd all got a little bit of a theme, but I was using some of the skills that I'd learnt that week. And then we went to Burnby Halls. I put this on the last video, the fish place. So I did some drawings from that. I still got a couple of gaps there, but I think what I'm going to do with those ones again is take some little thumbnail sections and doodle in there. And then I loved this one, the colours of East Yorkshire Coast. So we'd got to think about a place and write down words, and then we had to think of the word and then paint it as a colour, and you weren't allowed to look at anything. It was about what you thought and felt. So these are my colours of the East Yorkshire Coast. So you've got like a rainy day and a sunny day. Put those together. Oh, and then we did thumbnails for research. So this was me thinking about my own work And this was really, really good. I absolutely loved this because it made me think of lots and lots of different things, just stopping for a moment to think about my own work and what I wanted to do. So thinking about fragments, and like memories are fragments, and moments in time are like a fragment of your life. And then I started thinking about pottery, and it made me think of kintsugi, which is the golden journey and the golden repair, and then the fact that they treat the technique as if breakage is a part of history of an object. And I thought, oh, that's like history and cracks in your own life and things like that. And then looking at the philosophy of wabi-sabi and embracing flaws, waste not, want not. And it was all really, really resonating, and thinking about this modern idea. And I ended up finding some artists to go and look at. So it was really good to do that. And then just working out again compositions and ideas, looking at things that I'd seen and then how I could twist and move it, and then started thinking about techniques. So this sort of reminded me of stitching. So it was a really nice way of just thinking about your work and thinking of thumbnail developments, very quick ideas that you sort of noted down, which I really, really enjoyed. Oh, and then it all went, that week then, all went a little bit to pot. So on the month, so that was the first week as well. I'd got the Wednesday that kept clear. Myself and Jane, for those of you that have been on the stitching out or anything like that, you'll know Jane. She lives the other side of Brighouse. And we decided to go to the RHS Gardens in Manchester. Jane's been wanting to go since it opened, and I love going, so we thought, right, we're going to have a day out, we're going to the gardens. And I went to pick her up, and her hubby just kept telling us it was going to rain, and I kept saying, it's not going to rain, I've checked the weather forecast. And he was like, it's Manchester, it's going to rain. I was like, it's not going to rain, it's going to be fine. And we set off, and it wasn't raining. And then when we got there, a little bit of drizzle, so we thought, oh, do you know what, we'll go and have a cup of tea. Go and have a cup of tea first. So we went and had a cup of tea, had a bit of a catch-up, which was lovely, and then we set off into the gardens, and Jane has a lovely allotment, so she wanted to go and look at the allotment area. So we set off there first, and we'd got far enough away from the building that it was not sheltered anywhere, and then it absolutely belted it down. I borrowed Jane's little brolly. We'd not gone prepared at all. We'd got raincoats and stuff like that, but we hadn't prepared for the amount of rain that was just about to dump itself in Manchester. And there was no shelter at all. We stood under a pergola. That's not going to shelter you. And eventually we just said, oh, we're just going to have to make our way back to the main building. And by the time we got back there, we were both absolutely soaked. And we were busy, stood at the exit, sort of looking at each other. I don't think either of us wanted to say it. And eventually we just went, I think we're just going to have to go home. We're just going to have to knock it off, because I was in the trousers, feet, shoes, everything was so, there was no way that you were going to get yourself dry to spend the rest of the day there. So we ended up having a look around the garden centre, came home, went out for lunch, which was lovely. And we've got to go and do that again. We've got to go and do our Manchester day again. So that was the very first week that Robert was off. And then the second week, I was all ready, because some of this was the second week's stuff. No, that was the first week. That was all the first week. This was part of the second week. And on the Monday of the second week, I went to the Hebden Bridge WI. We had a train journey to Hebden. We all get very, very excited when we go on a train. We're like school kids going on a day out. And we went to see the Button Man at Hebden. This is his little card. So it's Vintage Buttons UK. Absolutely lovely guy that was busy telling us about the mysteries of the button box. I got my mum's button box when she passed away. Well, I say I got it, me and my sister had to split it, because it was lovely when he was talking, because he was talking about things that you used to get button boxes out and you'd run your fingers through it and you'd take them all out and sort them all out and then put them all back again. And I can remember many a time doing that at my mum's, and we got some buttons at the end of the day. Got some lovely little buttons as a little gift, and it was just such a lovely talk. But when we were going, I wasn't feeling that well. I wasn't feeling myself, and I thought, oh, it'll be fine, you'll be fine, Anne, off you go. So we went off and we had a lovely, lovely evening, but all evening I just kept feeling a little bit off it. And as we were coming back on the train, I started feeling more and more sick. So much so because my daughter was in Hebden as well, and she got the train back with us. And she got one of my old bags as her bag. And I ended up making her empty the bag into my bag, just so I'd got a bag in case I was going to be sick. And I just felt, worse and worse and worse, and got home and I just thought, you know what, I'm just going to go to bed. So off I went to bed. Got up the next day and just could not function at all. Every time I stood up, I was so dizzy. I just wanted to be sick, and I just couldn't function at all. So I ended up not going to work, and got back into bed. And this had happened. I'd had a dizzy spell a while back, and just lasted a day. And I equated it to a migraine because I got that hangover feeling that you get when you've had a migraine afterwards. So I thought, I've probably got a migraine. I just need to sleep it off. Well, I ended up sleeping till 2 o'clock in the afternoon, woke up, and still couldn't get out of bed, and just didn't want to do anything. But I made myself stay awake, so I thought, oh God, if I go back to sleep, I'm not going to sleep that night. It'll be fine. I'll get up in the morning. I'll be perfectly fine. And ended up watching Tansy's video, but I couldn't do that, which for me not to be able to do anything, it made me think, right, I am really not very well. The Wednesday, I was feeling a little bit better. I managed to get out of bed on the Wednesday and just went and laid on the sofa outside, and that's when I did this. So I was managing just to sit up, still wasn't feeling myself. I thought, it's probably just a hangover from my migraine. Never really thought anything else about it. Managed to go into work on the Thursday because it was my last Thursday at work, and I wanted to see all the kids before they broke up for the summer. Managed to do the Thursday. Was feeling a little bit better on the Friday. I can't remember what I did on the Friday. What did I do on the Friday? There's always something that I end up doing. What did I do? Oh, it was a PhD day. That was it. We had a PhD day here at the shed. No, it wasn't a PhD day. Just some of my friends came around and we had a stitching day. And that's when I carried on with the third design for one of my new kits that's coming out the next month or so. So I'd finished printing it and started stitching it. So there's 3 designs that you can do as individual pieces, or I have done it where all 3 fit together. And it's printed, and then it's just for the love of stitch. There's no real instructions, you just stitch over it. So I'm busy working on this at the moment and just trying to get that finished. So I was doing that on the Friday, and then on the Saturday there was a D-stash at brain's not working. D-stash in Leeds. That was it, at the scrap store. So we got up, we were off there first thing in the morning for when it opened up. So I was doing some shopping, which was kind of exciting. I hadn't planned on doing any shopping because I was very good. Compared to Jane and Liz, I was very good. Well, actually no, compared to Liz, I was very good. I think Jane was quite good too. But anyway, so I'd been thinking about the stitching hour that I'm going to do in 2024, starting to think about that. And my friend Annie was having a big D-stash. So this is Annie. So it's Raggedy Annie. And she was doing these textile project packs. And I thought, oh, a project pack. I actually haven't gone through this yet. Let's lift that up a little bit. So it's all packaged up in a lovely box. And I thought, oh, if I can find something, that one wasn't in it, I bought that separately. Find something in it that could give me my colourway for next year. And I saw this piece, I thought, oh my goodness me, that is absolutely beautiful. So, oh, that's nice too. So she said she had an absolutely lovely time. Oh, buttons. Putting these all together. So there's bits of trim, there's some threads, and then there's lots and lots of bits of fabric. So So I thought, ooh, saw that, and I thought, oh, do you know what? This is just perfect. I've got my colourway for next year, which was just kind of yummy. So I thought, and it's all in a box, which means I've got everything together. So that was kind of cute. So I got that. I got some reels of washi tape. I love washi tape. You can't get away with washi tape. And then from one of the stalls that was a charity, got another piece of fabric that sort of matches again with my colourway. And then I went into the scrap store and got myself just some rough paper, because I'm starting to look at some printmaking, and some felt holes. I had a small piece of this and I was getting panicked that I was running out, so I was quite glad to find some of this. Obviously with my project that's my whole holes, this just works brilliantly, putting in with bits and pieces. And then I went off to the little wool shop and ended up getting myself a couple of buttons, which I think I'm probably going to turn into brooches. That one might go on something, but I quite like that green one. Might put a brooch back on it and turn that into a button. So that was lovely, but while I was there, I sort of went downhill again and really started not feeling very, very well. So we ended up going for something to eat, and I ended up coming home and just going back to bed again, or just laying on the sofa or something. Just really, really wasn't good. And Robert was coming home on the Sunday, and he got in and I was just lying on the sofa, and I just thought, I'm really, really not very well. I don't know what's wrong with me. I just cannot shake this. So I ended up dialing 111 to get some advice, and ended up going to an out of hours doctor, and it all turned out got an infection, and it just wiped me out, like for at least a week and a half, nearly 2 weeks. But I was determined, because Robert was coming back and he was going back to work. It was the first week of the summer holidays. I was determined I was going away in the van, because I've sort of had a bit of a sulk on with Robert that he's been staying in the van, as he's using it now for work when he's away, and I hadn't been in the van, so I wanted to go with him. So my first trip in the van was to Wigan. Exciting. Well, it was going to be exciting. I've got loads of plans again with what I was going to do, but I ended up on the Monday, I drove him to work, came back in the van and just chilled all day in the van, because I was feeling better and I'd got antibiotics, and I just wanted to give him a day for them all to really, really kick in. So that was that day. And then on the Tuesday, I got the train into Liverpool. And again, I'd had a big plan of what I was going to do in Liverpool. I had to cut it back a little bit because I really wasn't up to a lot of stuff. But the one thing that I wanted to do was to go to, where is it? Abercan, the Abercan shop, because I've looked at their stuff all the time online, and I wanted to go to the shop. And I know I've always said about not buying new fabric, but it'd have been rude not to. But my main plan was to go and get 2 pieces of fabric for the stitching hour next year. So to go with my little kit that I've got, my stash that I'm getting together, I've got a lovely base fabric, this like limey green. And then for the one that I'll use when I'm doing my demonstration next year, I was going monochrome. I'm sort of giving you little teasers about what's going on, but there will be a video coming up soon telling you all about next year's project. I've got the plan. I've just got to start doing all the bits and pieces. And then I wanted a hoop as well. We're not working in a hoop, but some of the pieces we're going to need a hoop. So I thought, right, I just want a dedicated hoop. And I've just got an absolute love for quilters hoops now, the fact that they're just chunkier. So I've got that. And then I just had to have a look round. And I've always had a thing about text on fabric. I've not seen this one before. This one is... it's Memories by Cecile Metzager, from cuckooillustrations.com. Can't really see it because it's running off for somethingfabrics.com, but it's memories and it's words, and I just thought, oh, there's all little bits on here. I know it's a massive piece of fabric, but what I'm probably going to do is I'm going to be doing for Yarndale and Knit and Stitch some fabric bundles. So this will probably get cut up and put in there. And then the other piece, which I wish I'd found at the start of the year, is a fabric that's got in loads of textiles and different stitches and stuff like that. And I thought, oh, what with these little patches? And I just thought, oh, okay, that might have made my life. I mean, no, there's not 52 on it, but I thought they were just kind of cute. And then I've just got myself some muslin for dyeing, just because I wanted some muslin to dye. So that was quite nice going there. And then I had a wander around Liverpool, went down to the Docklands, found the, is it the Unique Bakery? It's on the docks, on Albert Docks. And if you go there, you have to go to this bakery. Oh my goodness me, it was absolutely divine. Ended up got a couple of bits for my lunch, went back into Liverpool, and there was an area that was like a green terrace bit, and somebody was sat playing a piano, so I had a little picnic all to myself, which was lovely. And then I'd read about, or I'd done a bit of research into a vintage shop that's called 69. And when I went, the outside looked a little bit scary. I thought, nope, go in, it's going to be fine, be brave. And I thought, oh, I'll go and get some vintage textiles. They didn't really have any vintage textiles, but in a glass case at the back, they had packs of linen buttons. You all know me and my linen buttons. So I ended up buying quite a lot of linen buttons, because obviously I haven't got enough. Had a lovely chat to the guy there, and he says he always usually has some in. He bought them in the 60s from somewhere that was selling out. There wasn't really any like old tablecloths or anything like that. These were really the only bits that I found. But yeah, so that was great. So that was a lovely little find. And then I ended up getting the train back. And then on the Wednesday, still wasn't feeling 100%. So I ended up sitting in the van stitching all day. So I did quite a lot of stitching, which is where I'd been working on that piece. And then, what else have I been doing? Then we were heading off to Wales. And whenever we go on holiday, I like a project. Because we were staying in a house, and we were taking the girls and boyfriends this time, so it's quite full. I didn't have a lot of space in the car, so I'd got to take some small stuff. So based on my stuff that I'd been doing with Tansy, I started looking at printmaking. So I started designing some little, these are not lino cuts, they're like a lino cut, but you do it on something called master cut, which is like a rubber. It's a lot easier to carve into. And my friend Naomi had, she contacted me about how she's done a lot of printing onto tea bag paper, and did I want some? So I got some tea bag paper from her. So I started doing some prints. I've done some pictures of these on Instagram. So I did some prints, and then I've stitched into them. So this is sort of the idea of some of my stuff. So these I'm going to end up, I think, framing these. I ended up having to put a little bit of interfacing on the back, just because the paper, you can stitch into it, but sometimes if your stitches are very small, you can end up ripping it. So that just gave it a little bit of stability. And I also printed onto some vintage quilting. I haven't stitched into this yet, so I've still got that to do. But these are going to get framed up, I think. Probably to sell at some point once I've got all my stuff together. And then developing this, actually, while I was on holiday, gave me an idea for a new set of kits. That'll come to in a second, because that's just jumping ahead. So when we were in Wales, we had a day in Port Merion. So I took my sketchbook with me, and we ended up sitting down. Well, I did anyway, sitting down for a little bit in one of the squares. I love Port Merion. It's like a Mediterranean folly. It's gorgeous. It's where The Prisoner was filmed. Sorry. So yeah, and I wanted to do some doodling there, and then printed out some of my photographs, and then I'd taken some of the cuts with me, and I'd been playing around with different textures and shapes, and then was playing around with these strips. So what I'm going to do, I think, I did them the other day, because the ones that I did, they weren't square, so they didn't turn round on each other, but I'm going to look at printing strips, possibly onto, well, an option maybe on tea bag paper, but also on fabric, and then they're just to be stitched. Possibly, I've got still, when I did some kits, I don't know if it was in lockdown, I did little sketchbooks in a tin, and I thought about having these strips actually in a vintage tin, so then they open out, and then you could make a little kit together with your threads and a needle, and you've got it in a little tin. So I'm still trying to work that one out. So I could tell my brain was beginning to get back to normal a little bit, because it was beginning to get a bit excited about different sorts of things. So that's another thing that I'm busy developing. I don't think I've done anything else in there. So that was sort of developing from this work and just having a bit of time just to think and stop, which I think is something that I needed to do, really. And I think that's where I'm up to. I think that's everything. The big things I'm getting ready for the moment are Yarndale in September and Knit and Stitch in November. So I'm busy trying to organise all that and get my stock and sort my kits out, and I'm slowly getting back to being myself. I'm still having days where I don't really want to do anything. It's surprising, isn't it, how like an infection can just really knock you for six. And I can't believe it's 6 weeks since I've done a wobble gob. That was quite shocking. I thought it was only a few, but anyway, that's quite a big wobble gob today. Yeah, so I'm having a shed day. I'm going to nip out and have a coffee with Jane later on this morning, have a bit of a catch up, and then come back, and I think it's a kit day today, something like that, I don't know. Anyway, no doubt I'll tell you about that in the next wobble gob. So that's me, everybody. I hope you're all well and happy, and the sun is shining today, which is lovely. We were very lucky in Wales that we did get some sunshine, even though it was meant to rain all week. But it's beautiful blue skies this morning. I have got some washing in, that's ready to go out on the line. And yeah, so I hope you're well. If you're somewhere in the UK that's had all these big floods and stuff like that, I hope you've not been affected. If you have, I hope you can get yourself sorted and back on track again. But that's it, I think. No doubt the second that I stop recording this, I shall think about something else. But anyway, I hope you have a lovely, lovely Wednesday, and I will see some of you possibly on Friday for Stitch and Chat, 9:30 till 11:30, for those of you that are on Stitching Hour group. Otherwise, I'll see the rest of you on the next Wobble Gob. Mwah! Love, hugs, and take care.